Thank you guys for joining me here on the last segment of today's show. And in this last segment, we're going to preview week 15 a little bit before we do it a lot, over the next couple of days leading into the weekend. But I had to talk about this game in particular. The Bills and the Detroit Lions will be on our TV this upcoming Sunday. We could be seeing a Super Bowl preview this week when Buffalo travels to Detroit to try and stop the powerhouse that is the Detroit Lions to kind of show the rarity in this matchup a little bit, because we're looking at two teams that combined, the Bills with 10 wins and the Detroit Lions with 12 wins. We're looking at 22 wins and 4 losses right now between just both of these teams. And to show the rarity, not only in this matchup, but with the Steelers and Eagles also playing, that's the along with the Steelers and Eagles game, the last time the NFL had two different games with teams matching up with double-digit wins like this in Week 15 or earlier was back in 1985. So the rarity of seeing, the level of these two games and the level of both of the teams playing in both games is super rare, obviously, because it hasn't happened in like 45 years or something like that. So this weekend is obviously going to be, rare in that aspect, but also we should be treated to some high caliber football, hopefully, in both of these games. Both of them, I think, are set to kick off at around 4:30, so that's a bit unfortunate that you're going to have to switch between games. But regardless of it, in this matchup with the Bills and Detroit, right, looking at the Lions, they enter with a 12-1 record, and they're on an 11-game winning streak, which is the longest right now currently in the NFL after getting a huge victory over the Green Bay Packers back on Thursday. They had their mini bye in the meantime since then, so they should be well rested for hosting the Buffalo Bills this upcoming Sunday. But for the Bills, on that side of things, the Bills, because they had their winning streak snapped last week in that loss to the Ravens, now they enter with a 10-3 record, and with the Steelers also at 10-3, they're kind of battling for that number 2 overall seed, even though the Buffalo Bills definitely have a much easier path to that number 2 seed than the Steelers do, just based on who they play. But it is a bit unfortunate also just because the Bills mentioned how it was after the 49ers game where they won the division that they kind of put it out there that they wanted to get the number 1 seed. So the fact that they lost and that makes it a lot more difficult does put a damper on things, but still, you got to get the number 2 at least now, right? If you're the Bills, you can't be also giving that up to a Steelers team that has the toughest ending of the regular season out of anybody in the NFL. So it's set up for you to take the number 2 seed. So the Bills are definitely going to try and help their cause with a win, hopefully in Detroit this upcoming Sunday. But the main thing that stands out with both of these teams, two of the most complete teams in the NFL, but the thing that stands out the most is the kind of offense that we're going to get from both of these teams, hopefully, right? Because both teams, if you look at them on the season, both of them are top 10 in total yards on offense this year. The Lions are in second, while the Bills are 10th in the NFL in that category. Also, both teams are top 2 in scoring as well. The Lions lead everybody with 32 points per game, and the Bills are right behind them, averaging 30 points per game. So, they obviously have no problem scoring points, right? And I'm anticipating something similar to what we saw in the Rams and Bills game, right? Just because the Rams have all the weapons in the world. So that was a high-scoring game, and both of these defenses aren't really two of the greatest right now as we speak, and I'm going to get into that a little bit more. But more so on the offense, right? You look at Josh Allen and Jared Goff, the two quarterbacks in this matchup. One's 5th and one is 6th in passing touchdowns this year. Allen is coming off of a 6-touchdown game last week against the Rams, but it wasn't enough. But even still, that's a crazy thing to do. To be accounting for 6 touchdowns is insane for just one player. Jared Goff has been extremely accurate, extremely efficient this year. At one point, I forget what the stat was. It was like he had more passing touchdowns or more completions than, or he had like more wins or more passing touchdowns than he had incompletions at one point in this year, which it was something like that. It was just nuts to even comprehend, at least for me. But he's been awesome. He was in the MVP conversation a little bit before that 5 interception performance, even though they won. Jared's not winning an MVP because of that. So I mean, that's a whole another conversation. And then you have obviously Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery both hitting double digit, touchdowns on the year so far, and how unstoppable, really, I think is the appropriate word to use for how both of them have looked this year, not only individually, but complementing each other as well. That's obviously a huge help for them. And then you look at Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's number 2 in the NFL in receiving touchdowns with 9, only behind Jamar Chase, and he's 4th in the NFL currently as well in reception. So clearly the go-to guy for Jared Goff, along with Sam Laporta and Jameson Williams and Tim Patrick also. A big target like that. He's really gained the trust of Jared Goff recently. So all those guys, just offense on in this game. I haven't even mentioned James Cook. Khalil Shakir on the other side for the Bills, and also Amari Cooper, right? They're all, in this conversation of supporting the idea that we could be in for a high-scoring game here in Detroit on Sunday. But not only are we going to see great football on the field, but also I think it makes it even better because there's some high stakes in this game as well, with the Lions trying to stay in that number 1 spot in the NFC. Even though this is a tough game, and the Eagles also play a tough game, that's who really they're competing with for the number 1 seed, and also the Vikings, I guess you can throw in there as well. But the Lions, it's not really a cakewalk because they have to play obviously the Bills, and then they got to play the 49ers after this, and then they still got to play the Vikings. So those aren't easy games where you're just going to like roll over and steamroll all those teams. If you lose like 2 of those, and the Eagles, who have a much more favorable schedule, don't lose another game, you could play yourself out of the number 1 seed. So there's still a lot to play for the Lions here, obviously. I mentioned it before how it feels like the Lions just beat up everybody and then just keep going on their path. But even if they are looking so dominant, I don't think it's just a foregone conclusion that they're just get the number 1 seed, because they still got to play a lot of tough teams. And same thing for the I guess you could say the same thing for the Bills, right? Because we talked about the number 2 seed and making sure you lock that up. You don't want to lose this game and be in a situation, I don't know. I mean, I don't think the Steelers are going to win 3 out of their next 4, but it is a possibility, albeit low possibility. It's still a possibility. So if you lose this game and say the Steelers win the next 3 and maybe lose 1 more, and you put yourself in a much more troubling scenario than you would have to trying to get that number 2 seed. So the Bills definitely want to go out there and try to win this game, especially because of the way they lost last week too. I'm sure they felt like they need to make up for that. So what better way to do it than beating the best team in the NFC, in my opinion. So that's kind of an overview of this matchup a little bit. But now getting into the matchups there, looking at the first one I have on here and what's going to help determine this game is going to be the Detroit running game with Sonic and Knuckles going up against the Buffalo Bills run defense, where the Rams, and I thought Kyren Williams and even Blake Corum had a very efficient day. I forget the total rushing yards, but Kyren had a pretty decent day, and Blake Corum also spotting him as well. And I think you elevate it now going up to Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, because Corum is still a rookie. He's still like getting used to everything, so he can't really take advantage of having like a 2 running back sort of operation. Whereas the Lions, they thrive off of that, right? That's one of their MOs. So can we see a better effort from the Bills? Are they going to be able to stop the run game this time? Or if we see anything close to what we saw last week against Kyren and even Blake Corum, the Bills are going to like have their way with that defense. So that's one of the matchups. Then also looking at Buffalo's passing defense against all the weapons that Detroit has, because as suspect as the Bills' run defense was, the passing defense wasn't much better, because Puka Nacua had one of, if not the best game of this year that he's on right now, of his second year. He completely destroyed the zones, the man coverage, all the blitzes that they tried never really got there. And not only that, but you had Cooper Kupp doing his thing. And you really had just the offensive weapons for the Rams in the last game really show out. And now in this game, it's not that much different, because you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, like I said, Sam Laporta, Tim Patrick, who's a big body, Jameson Williams, who could take the roof off of your defense. So you have to worry still about a lot of different guys, and the way Ben Johnson operates that whole thing and, manipulates the offense, right? It doesn't fill me with too much confidence that the Bills are going to be able to stop that, or I'd be interested to see how they think they're going to stop it, what kind of things that they'll do differently. It does intrigue me, but I don't think that's a good matchup for them either. And then the last one is going to be Joe Brady against Aaron Glenn. Probably not the guys you were thinking I was going to mention, but those are two head coaching candidates. And I'm very interested to see how Joe Brady just uses Josh Allen in this game. How, especially after coming off of a 6-touchdown game, and really, I don't think he could play that much better at all. How much better can you get than 6 touchdowns, right? But, how Joe Brady puts a game plan together around Josh Allen to get the win ultimately, and how he uses him in the running game, the passing game, and everything like that. I think a lot of it comes down to Joe Brady and, putting out a game plan for them. While also, in that same conversation, Aaron Glenn is going to have to try and stop Josh Allen, and I'm interested to see how he tries to do that, right? Is he going to bring pressure? Is it going to be zone? Last week against the Packers, things didn't go too well. The defense really struggled, and now you bring it up to the highest level against Josh Allen. So, it'll be interesting to see how and what Aaron Glenn does to kind of slow down Josh Allen a little bit as well. But in terms of predictions, I'm going to go with the Lions to win this game, because I know that Buffalo's defense definitely scares me, and they don't have like a shutdown corner, or the run defense again just wasn't very good against the Rams on the road. So if I think that they're going to go on the road and play like tremendously better, I think that's overestimating it. So the fact that they got to play Jameer and David Montgomery, while also they have like Ray Davis, Ty Johnson, and James Cook that did their thing, but I think this is an operation that they really haven't seen that much this year, outside of maybe Baltimore with the kind of running offense that they have. So they got destroyed in that game as well, and I don't think this matchup really suits them in that regard. And then if you want to bring like 9 guys down there, they got Amon-Ra St. Brown that could win on one-on-one. Sam Laporta can win on one-on-one. Jameson Williams can just run right by you. And Tim Patrick has a huge catch radius around him. So they got the guys to kind of attack any sort of scenario. Then also, Buffalo's offense and Allen, they're scoring at will. But, with the Lions defense also struggling, I'm expecting Josh Allen to have a pretty decent day, but I just don't know if his defense can provide 1 or 2 stops in this game where they're going to need to stop Detroit. So I think it's going to put a lot of pressure on Josh to kind of be Superman again in this game, and I just feel like the Bills defense doesn't really have an answer for all the weapons that the Lions are going to throw at them, and also just trying to keep up with the Lions, essentially. I think it's going to be very difficult for them. And the fact that they got to play on the road again, right? It was Los Angeles, now they got to go to Detroit, Michigan. It's a lot. So I think the Lions are going to win. I'm feeling pretty confident that they will get the job done in that game. But for us and the show, that is everything that we're going to cover on today's episode. I want to thank you guys for joining me, and please remember to like, follow, and subscribe to the Chip Shot Football Podcast, as well as following the network on all forms of social media. And if you want to catch more of this show, check out both YouTube channels, the Podcast Network channel and the Sports Network channel, for more NFL coverage and more content surrounding the Chip Shot Football Podcast as well. I've been your host, Manny Maradiaga. Join me again tomorrow, same time, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, to start looking ahead to Week 15 in the NFL.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to